Better for you. Welcome to another Friday Night Live Q&A, where you can ask me questions about what's going on, about freshwater aquariums, whatever it may be. That's what I do these for. I'm trying to raise this up a little bit, but I guess it's not wanting to. Anyways, I think it looks good enough. There we go. Get the aquariums in there, or terrariums. Hello, everybody in the chat. Good to see you all in here. And first off the bat, we'll let you guys know I will be speaking at the Tampa Bay Aquarium Society here tomorrow. So if you're in the area, want to come over, I'm pretty sure it's open up to the public. So you come hang out, come say hi if you want to. We'll be in Tampa tomorrow. So I'm excited about that. And also been really busy getting things done around the fish room and house. Gonna have a guest tomorrow, or not tomorrow, but this week coming up. Special friend of mine, been a friend for a long time, and super excited to see him again. So it'll be a nice little treat. And maybe we'll do a live together. So I know he'll be doing a fish room tour, and be able to get that out for you guys at some point. But those are the big things coming up this week. I've got quite a few fish moved around, got some tanks in, finally got those 75s in. I did tell you guys I wasn't gonna plan on filming much of it, but you know how plans go, they usually give you a reason to do it anyways. So I kept finding babies within where I was moving them, and of course I got to tell the story to you guys. So I have been filming all that. I just haven't put it all together for you guys yet. That, and it's not done. I'm still kind of in the process of it. All right. But the main reason why I'm here is really to answer your guys' questions. So if you got questions, let them out. And if I don't know the answer to them, we've got awesome people here in the chat that can help us out, because like I said 100 times, I'll say it 100 more. You could be in this hobby for 100 years and still be learning new things. It's just such a deep hobby. It may not really seem like it when you're like only getting into, well, I don't know. Maybe it does seem like it when you're just getting your first fish tank. Because shoot, they've got the most research. But we've been doing this a long time. Got hundreds of aquariums. A lot of experience, a lot of knowledge, and pushed a lot of boundaries within our time. Which really not really so much as far as boundaries, but more perspectives and philosophies on it. Because really nature has been doing it a long time, so it's really a boundary only within my mind, or our minds, or consciousness, or collective consciousness. I sound like a yuppie. Go with the Flow Aquatics says, hey Henry, did you guys get in? Okay. Oh, Henry, did you have a little trip? Good to see you in here, Henry. That's Aquarium Fantasy. Mikey Fish Tank says, do you think Albino Corys would be okay? I'm near you in Florida, 125 gallon preformed pond in the ground with sand bottoms. All year round? I don't know, because they can get fairly cool, but I know where I'm at, it can get underneath freezing, maybe not for very long, and only a couple nights during the winter. I'm not sure how they would handle that. It would be a gamble. I've never tried it, so I couldn't tell you. But I know, like, as long as you don't have them out in the winter, it's not really a gamble so much. That, and maybe have a lighter substrate for them too, because that way they can camouflage and be less likely for them to be predated by birds. Chris Stoll says, Lucas, what's the best shrimp food in your opinion? I mean, I use Tetracolor Tropical Granules for my stuff. But there's a lot of good foods out there. Only reason why I like that Tetracolor Tropical Granule is just it's a lot easier for me to see when I'm feeding and to make sure I'm not overfeeding. And everything seems to really like it and go for it, so it never sits around. And, you know, I have so many people that have me try their foods, and a lot of them are good. It's just I like to stick to one food when I'm trying to feed so many tanks and use something that I know they all like. Danimal Cracker, good to see you in here, buddy. Thank you so much for the $20 super chat. My goodness, I haven't seen one of those in a long time. Appreciate you big time. Lucas says, first live I've caught in a minute. Amazing job on Fins and Fury. I've been watching boxing my entire life and love that unorthodox style. Still had it draw even with the flash knockdown. Huge respect. God bless, brother. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Was quite the battle. I honestly... So when I first went into that Fins and Fury, as far as like the cage, I knew like I couldn't do as much as I wanted to because I did have a bruised rib that I had to make sure that he couldn't get to. So it really kind of stuck me with the jump in, get your jabs in, and kind of get out then like throwing multiple combos, because you get caught up in multiple combos and he would have caught that, it would have been bad. But yeah, I think with boxing, I know this isn't about fish, but boxing and any like sport like that, unorthodox usually goes a long way, because if people are trained to like read this or read that, then obviously something different will mix up the tempo and tone. And with those sort of things, you want to kind of control them. But I appreciate that shout out, that comment a lot, because it was I put a lot of work into it, and I didn't quite get what I wanted, but I did enjoy the experience. It was a once in a lifetime experience, and really glad I did it. But I appreciate you watching and supporting through it, because I know a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, but there was some people that were just like, no, I'm not gonna even subscribe, or I can't support this or whatever. So, but I had a lot of fun. Everybody who was in it had a lot of fun. Everybody enjoyed it. We wouldn't have done it if we didn't. So it was cool. But good to see you in here, and thank you so much for that super chat. Really helpful right now. Oh, speaking of which, too, the website's been updated, LRBAquatics.com. Mentioning support and trying to feed the family. We got that updated, and thank you all for your orders as well. I feel like the hobby's been slowing down. It could be getting saturated more, or either there's just not as many people like really knowing where they're gonna live day to day too, with a lot of foreclosures happening in the housing market. You really got to kind of be set when it comes to keeping an aquarium, because a lot of people don't want to move them around. So for us lucky ones that do have aquariums, we got to be grateful that we even have them. Because there's a lot of people who would love to have them, but really can't even have them. Chris Stowell says, Lucas, what's... Oh, I already read that. I don't know how I got back up there, but... Mario Valesco says, have you used worm castings for aquarium plants? I haven't, but I can imagine there's nothing wrong with it, and it would add nutrients. Now, whether you're going to be feeding algae or your plants really depends on your lighting and what's in your tank and your mineralization and fertilization. Because if you got too much nutrients in there, then the algae will usually take over. So, I mean, it's worth a try if you want to mess with it. I always say, like, something like that, just get you a tank, experiment with it a little bit, see if you like it, if you enjoy it. And that's how I got to where I got to with all my tanks, was just by experiencing it, you know. That's the best way to learn. Dean Stevenson says, how's it going, y'all? We are doing good, Dean. Glad to see you in here. Another Friday night. Whoop, whoop. I wish my Fridays meant the same as a lot of your guys' do. But it don't stop here. We're always on that grind. I'm actually excited to be on the grind now. We got us a little beach vacation last weekend. It was really good to actually spend some time with the family. Had a little kids water park resort and lazy river and live music and food and a beach. Felt pretty blessed. It's what we've been wanting to do since we've been down here. And I grinded for like 2 years building all this up, and then did that Fins and Fury. I wanted to do it a long time before the Fins and Fury, but I knew that was a once in a lifetime opportunity, so, you know, grinded harder. Now I took a little vacation from it, and now I'm ready to get back in this fish room. I have been back in the fish room, and real excited about things going on in there because it's so weird. The great thing about like what I do is the fact that since I have so many aquariums, and I may not be paying that much attention to them, like although I'm not in them, granted besides feeding them every day, they're doing their thing. So when you come back to them, it's like, oh wow, this has grown. Oh wow, these have had babies. Oh wow, look how big those are already. I love that kind of stuff. But like moving tanks around, getting things organized, it just takes time when you have a lot of aquariums. Challenge Ford says, do you know anything about African banded barbs? I just got 15, so I do not know much about those. Maybe somebody in our chat has had them, but I don't know a whole lot about them. No, barbs are usually egg scatters, usually pretty hardy fish, usually pretty good eaters, where they're always hungry. And sometimes they can be nippy, but mostly peaceful. And very social within them. They're like species. Mikey's Fish Tank says, people are poor right now. The economy is real tough. Everything seems like extra right now. Yeah, that was another thing about training for boxing. Lady LRB like did the numbers for just the cost it took to feed me through the calories and excess calories from training. And you guys know how the grocery store is right now. It's crazy. It was like $900 a month, which like that's insane for a food bill. Like I was literally eating everything I earned just to fuel my body for that, which is kind of messed up because, you know, health is wealth. And like I wasn't buying like supplements or nothing. This is like just like orange juice and steak and spaghetti and some other like watermelon and stuff like that. And just how quick all that adds up in this market, which don't get me on the economy and the whole fiat system because it is a debt system. So the more debt there is, the more money gets expanded. But it's definitely a control system. But that's a whole different live stream. I could talk about that stuff forever. Matter of fact, I follow and have been following a lot of that stuff more than fish. Brent J2254 says, hey Lucas, I'm curious how often do your water change your shrimp tanks? I've noticed the less mess with my shrimp, the better they do. Probably gonna do once a month water changes on my tank. I think that's a great idea. If that's what works for you. I do prefer, if I could, I would do like a weekly 25%. Just because I do notice that they'll breed more if I do more water changes. It's just you don't want to disturb their like ground. That's why I talk about rock piles all the time in shrimp tanks because it creates a nursery, which you can do it with driftwood. It's a little harder to do with plants, but you can do it with plants too. But the rocks and create like a space when you do your water changes, it doesn't disturb the area, which makes your shrimp more prone to breed because they feel safer about their environment not getting torn up by like a torrid rain. Because out in the wild, when things get really wild and real heavy rains and floods like that, it displaces them, they move everywhere, and it's really hard for them to really socialize and build their colonies up as much. Kind of like when ants get washed away. Same thing on land. And just that disturbance sometimes can be enough to bother with them. But as far as water changes myself, I haven't done water changes on them probably like 6, 7, 8 months now. I've gone longer, but I do prefer to do water changes on them. I have to, but they do breed more, and so the fish or the plants grow more too. But like everything, there's a balance. Like you can do too much water change, and sometimes you can, like, I guess, do too little. Too much can sometimes be more harmful than too little. Let me put it that way. Mr. What's in the Cooler says, trying to build a fish room. Well, that's awesome, man. You got a dream. Got something to drive you. And, you know, sometimes in life, that's what it really takes to just enjoy living, you know. When you don't have anything to drive you, what are you doing but floating around trying to figure out what your dream or goal is, which that's fine too, because sometimes we got to take time for that, and it'll cycle back and forth in life. I know there's been many a times I've hit my goals. I've lived a lot of my dreams, ones that I haven't even realized that would even be possible. It's a wild world out there, and if you put into it, you'll give back out. Just be careful what you put into it. All right, trying to get back to where I was on chat here. Asaya Llewellyn, always good to see you in here. Asaya says, I'm only seeing female fry so far from my guppy pair. Is there something I need to change to get more males? Some people think it has to do with temperature. Like warmer the temp, the more there'll be males. Sometimes it could just be the ratio of males and female adults. And they will kind of cull out their colony themselves and be like, we feel like we need more females, let's keep all them around. So it can be dependent. I haven't really tried out the temp thing, and honestly, you know, throughout the years of breeding so many guppies, I've seen it happen either way with temperatures or not. And holy moly, Danimal Cracker again with the $5 super chat. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You are absolutely awesome. Says, did the mascara barbs ever breed in your custom basket? If you breed some cool plecos, I'll buy them, LOL. You know, I have thought about getting into plecos, and those the zebra plecos are definitely on the list at some point, because I know they would do good with these filterless situations. I mean, I've got plecos, I've kept plecos, I've bred some plecos. Mostly a bristlenose, because you could just throw those in a tank and they breed. But I definitely would like to get back into them a little more. I just don't know when, because there's a lot of other things to do before I go into all that. And then as far as the mascara barbs, I'm thinking when my special guest is here next week, we will probably get into that basket and pull some out, because I don't know, I feel like I gotta move them and deal with that pond before it gets too late. And holy crap, what is that? It's the Canadian himself with his Canadian dollars. Thank you so much for the 100 Canadian dollars. Loonies, right? You know what I mean? A bunch of loonies. But Joey, the man himself, says, water changes for me tonight. Gonna have you on the background. Sorry I'm late. Looking good, my man. Well, I appreciate that. Huge help. And I hope the water changes go smooth for you and you don't end up flooding anything. I saw your latest flood story on Instagram where, was it the fish store or something, was like, hey, watch this out for me. And then next thing you know, whole fish store was getting its floors cleaned. Gordon there with the mop is pretty good. But good to see you in here, bro. All right. And if you got those questions, make sure you put the question mark behind them, because if you don't, I will bypass them because I can't speed read everything. Jackson says, I have a trout goutiid that has what looks like a zit right above its mouth. Is that parasites, or do fish get acne? So what that could be is like a sore from either pecking on something that was sharp. So I don't know what kind of substrate you have. If you had something like Eco Complete, which is like lava rock, that stuff is sharp. So if they were mouthing that, they could get a cut, which then could look like a zit. And sometimes it will kind of like scab over, get something white. But I wouldn't do anything for them. I would just let them be. Because if you go throwing in a bunch of meds, you're going to destroy the ecosystem more, which can cause more problems. But more than likely, it's from either that or sparring. Which trout goutiids, they can kind of battle with each other. There was seeing in albino longfin plecos. Yeah, then is he just by himself? Does he not have anybody to battle with? Because I know those albino longfin plecos won't mess with the trout goutiid. Brewpack, what is the longest living fish you had and how many years did it live? I know the longest living killifish I've had has been like 7 years. Shoot. I would say the rope fish I've had for quite a while. Then the mascara barbs. I think those are probably like 7 or 8 years old. I have some rainbows that are pushing that far, but I've only got like a couple that are still hanging around at that age. But that would be the oldest one. But yeah, I can't believe I had a Epilotes lamontii killifish live about 7 years too. Seems to be like the time frame for a lot of fish. At least the smaller fish. Asaya Llewellyn. And what's crazy is, you know, a lot of fish, although some can live a long time, like that Epilotes lamontii, you know, they'll give a fish certain lifespans, but that's not always guarantee that, hey, this specific fish will live the full lifespan. It may go longer, it may go shorter. There's a lot of dependency in that within genetics and all kinds of stuff too. So just something to keep in mind when you're trying to compare things like that. Asaya Llewellyn says, what would you do? Bring in rainbow shiners for the winter or keep them outside? I know you're in a warmer, more south area.
Arkansas.
Yeah, Arkansas, so I think they'd be good out there in the winter. Because that's not probably too far off of, what, North Carolina? I think they're even up in Virginia, what their weather would be. Piles Aquatics says, I have a yo-yo loach that is over 17 years old. I believe that. I believe that. Those things live a long time. Only loaches I have are the pygmy chain loaches, which I have some that are probably like, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old. They're pretty old. Animal Cracker says, I've had some striped Raphael catfish for 10 years. Oh, well, I believe that too. I think, I don't know. Remember that Raphael catfish we had for the longest time? He may have been pushing around that time. I forgot all about those. There's been a lot of fish I've kept throughout the years too. That even before YouTube and all that. Leonardo Polito says, do you have Corydorus pygmaeus? How to care for this kind of fish? So I don't have them anymore. I have kept them in the past. Real small fish. Fairly easy to breed. They will scatter their eggs out into rock piles and stuff. And usually cold water trigger will do it for them when you want to get them to breed, but you gotta tend to keep them species only, and you don't want to throw shrimp in with them or anything when you're trying to breed them like that. But pretty easy to keep as long as you don't keep anything with a mouth big enough to fit it in it, because they are pretty small and they're very social. They love to be in groups. All right, what Raphael cats he has. Got some 14-year-old goldfish that live in the pond. That's awesome. I know my dad had a goldfish for like 12 years or something. It was the most beautiful goldfish, and it changed colors. It had turned gold and ended up being this big, beautiful, white, long fin, kind of like goldfish. My dad thought it was going to die. This was like in the 90s. And so he went to a state park and just released it out there because it was like the only goldfish. Just I guess he wanted him to live his final hours out in, or final days or whatever out in the wild, or become food or something, because I'm sure he probably became food being as white and bright as he was. Back then he didn't really talk about kind of stuff about not releasing stuff out in the wild. That was back in the 55-gallon Oscar days, where that was the main staple. But now we know better, that we shouldn't be just putting fish out in the wild. And I am at the bottom of the chat, so if you got a question, that is where I'm at. I don't know how long I'll be on here too if you guys don't keep me occupied, because I still haven't had dinner and I'm pretty freaking hungry. That I don't know what else to talk about. Dean Stevenson says it's for the baby goldfish born black end up the goldest, and the ones born orange always end up the white. Huh. So there you have it. So black end up the goldest, orange end up to be white. It is wild how they do change out like that, kind of like bettas will too. Chia Pet says, LRB Aquatics, do you have contact with Ryan Wild Fish Tanks? I mean, I don't know if I have his, I think I have his direct line. Why do you ask? But I love Ryan. And maybe he might be at the Tampa Bay Aquarium Society, where I'll be talking next, or well, tomorrow. Guppy Beast, what's up, my dude? Says, you're bringing Joey to the fish club in January, question mark? There's a potential, yeah, there's been talks about it. And as long as the club okays it and stuff, be pretty wild. I don't know how much I can talk about that yet, but I don't see a problem with it. Oh, Joey said it in chat? Well, then we're good. Stephen Smith says, is Canada the only place you can't send fish to? No, actually, I can't send fish to Hawaii and pretty much anywhere else international. Just when you get into international shipping, they want like a license and all that. And you know, that kind of work, I don't know. That, and it seems like it would be risky just because you don't know how fast the mail's going to move from, especially like Florida to Canada. And when it comes to shipping fish, time is kind of the essence. Random Figment says, but I know some of my fish that have gotten into Canada. There's many hobbyists just across the border that will meet across the border with other hobbyists. And they'll just drive them through. There's actually a big market potential there if people wanted to mess around with it and actually do something about it. Because there's a demand. Random Figment says, what's the best way to deal with the Columnaris infection? Well, I would say to make sure it truly is a Columnaris infection, because something like a Columnaris infection can often get misdiagnosed. But really, Ruby Reef, Kick Ick, and Rally, as far as any kind of like infectious anything, will get rid of. It'll get rid of. I don't dose meds for much of anything, but if I did, those would be the ones I would do. Dean Stevenson says, did you ever get your water change system working in your fish room? No, still the pumps haven't worked. Our air conditioner actually went out this week, and I had to spend a lot of time just messing with that, trying to get it to work without calling somebody, and ended up having to call somebody because an animal had ripped into our return ducts and caused some havoc, was causing our AC to freeze over. Because I was going to spend this week working on those pumps, because that's kind of like my next big priority, is to really get those pumps working. Like, I need to get those done. Like, it would just make me feel so much better. So I had to spend a lot of time putting that together, and then for it at the end to not really do what it was supposed to do, just because the pumps weren't supposed to have humidity, which what kind of water pump can't handle humidity? It was kind of insane after I read the manual. And that was a big chunk of the cost for it, and it cost me at least $1,000 for those pumps, so I gotta try to save that money back up. Lake Missoula Aquatics, Ben Sharp says, I see the sailfin shiners on site. Any tips for breeding and care? So they have been super easy to keep. Granted, my water is 170 TDS, so it's kind of a little under as far as softness. So it's not real hard. It's real close to neutral. They've been doing great in that. And as far as breeding them, they've been community breeding, colony breeding for me. Anytime I move them into another tank and just a group of them, like say move the babies over, they'll tend to have babies too. So they've been really prolific. And unlike rainbow shiners, they will actually keep their colors. They don't like change colors for breeding or nothing. They look like all the time, which is nice. But it's super easy to care for. Go with the flow. Aquatic says, Lucas, are you going to Aqua Expo in Coral Springs next month? That's next month? I did not know about it. Let me take a picture of that. Not a picture. A new iPhone. I guess I can't take pictures like I used to on here. But I don't really know the information on that. Possibility, maybe. I know I may have another visitor next month. So, we'll see how things line up. Chia Pet says, LRB Aquatics, you wouldn't happen to know someone in the OCO Orlando that can help move a tank on Sunday? So Chia Pet is looking for help moving a tank on Sunday in Orlando. I don't know if for some reason somebody in the chat is listening or can help him.
He was saying that's why he was asking for Ryan's number.
And that's why he was asking for Ryan's number. Yeah, because I think he's around that area. Yeah, Chia Pet could use some help. Joseph Valdez says, maybe hit some people up in the club. Maybe make a post in the club forum. And maybe that will help you too on your search. Joseph Valdez says, do you leave hair algae alone or do you try to remove it when you see it? In a perfect world, I would remove it when I see it. Now, I don't always get time to do that. But in a perfect world, I would remove it. Just because if it's in there and it's growing, I mean, it's growing. So you can either grow plants or you can grow the algae. And the only way to get around that is just by removing it. Because no matter how much you try, even if you get all the, like, what are those, the ones that they make them in the lab? What the hell are they called? That come in the gel? Either way, even if you buy like the cleanest plants, algae will always find a way. And the best way to get rid of it is remove it. Just the real trick is to remove tissue culture. Thank you. Best way to remove it is to remove it right before a water change, because after you do your water change, it will break down a lot of those particles that get broken up into the water column through the oxidation of the air coming through when you do your water changes. So like that pearling stuff will actually break down that algae. Burnout Hippie says, how do you make yummy cinnamon rolls? Do you have a good recipe? Since this is another kitchen Q&A. No fish in sight. All fish MIA. What happened? Oh, bro. A lot of it is just the internet. Seriously, it's just the internet. I wish I could do them out in the barn as much as I would love to. That, and I did forget. I was thinking about doing it last week in the bedroom. It's just I don't usually think about it because their lights go off by this time. Yeah, if I remember. But I think Lady LRB might have some good cinnamon roll recipes. I'm not much of a cook myself. I like to eat, but I do not like to cook at all. But we'll fix that eventually at some point. Still need to do a live outside with y'all. Just we got these mega huge Florida mosquitoes right now from, guess they say the hurricane made them bad, but whatever. I don't know. I've never seen mosquitoes the size of the ones that are out there. They're like bigger than a dime. Adam Lash says, any updates on the blue goulash? So I've got the eggs and I put them in the peat. I haven't seen anything eyed up. I don't really see any eggs in there. I should probably just add water anyways to see if anything pops up, but besides that, I haven't had time to put them back together like I would want to collect eggs. Unfortunately, there's just only so much time in a day, and time like to lead you here and there and everywhere else. And I guess it's just like, yeah, it seems like such a simple task. Just set up the 2.5 gallon real quick, throw them in there, let them do their thing for a week, but then usually that's got to sit in my shipping area. And you know, every hour counts when it comes to my life. So it's either doing that or something else. And there's a lot that needs to get done right now before my guest shows up this next week. Old Fashioned Whiskey says, can I remove meds from the water by only using carbon without any water changes? Dilution's always the solution. They say carbon will remove meds. So from what they say, like that will kind of bind and capture it, but I would still do water changes just to dilute the water and what it may not bind. Because it could bind some of the meds and some of it not, and who knows. Definitely wouldn't hurt the system. I know microbiology usually has some way to break all that down over time within itself. So just as long as you're not crushing like the microbiology and ecosystem, you shouldn't have to stress it too much. Bob S says, hi Lucas, how has the economy been affecting the tank prices at Petco? So definitely see a raise in prices on the tanks at Petco, because used to be like more towards $1 per gallon. Now it's more towards like they're half off. It's actually what a full price used to be. So it's almost doubled it. They've doubled prices pretty much. And I don't know if that's demand, because I don't really see it being demand, or if it's just trying to control the price and or just price of glass. I don't know if the wholesale price of glass for like a sheet has gone up either. But that would answer a lot of your questions, is look at the price of glass and how it's changed in the last couple. Kathleen says, going to do first dirt tank. Is organic potting soil made from chicken manure okay, or will it cause high ammonia or nitrates? Thanks in advance. Definitely would cause high ammonia. I've never used any of that. Like, I've just gotten dirt from my yard, which doesn't have all that excess nutrients, which you would think in an aquarium, yeah, nutrients are great, especially for a planar aquarium, but it's how the nutrients are released that becomes the issue, because if all those nutrients are released too fast, then it's food for algae, whether it be green water, whether it be hair algae, or whatever. Nature does have its way to breaking those down to where it would be sustainable at some point to put fish in there, but you would definitely have to let it mature a lot more longer than normal, because like you'd have to let algae and plants kind of grow and work that excess nutrients out and ammonia. Excuse me. Lauren Smithson says, have you had to deal with any unforeseen pests like leeches or nymphs with your outdoor ponds? How do you treat those situations? So I haven't had anything like leeches. I have had like, I guess some nymph things, but those are like more like dragonfly nymphs. But then there's like these like long stick looking bugs that have like, they're kind of like a water praying mantis that has been showing up. I haven't got one on video for you guys yet. And then there's like these beetles that have been showing up. Some people say they will predate. I don't know if they really do. But besides that, that has been my biggest kind of pest like issues that I've seen. Besides that, I haven't seen anything else. Nothing as far as like the fish. The fish are all fine besides those. I'm curious if Petco still has those tank sales. I think they do. They just had one not too long ago. I think they do them like 4+ times a year anymore. I think they figured out that's probably the only time they actually sell a bunch of tanks. Lake Missoula Aquatics says, any new shrimp you are working on? I mean, maybe not that you guys have seen. I'm trying to think here. Not really. There is some that I want to get, like the orange eye blue tigers and some of these saltwater shrimp. And then the cardinal sluazies I would like to get. But tigers and stuff seem to be doing pretty well for me. I had some galaxies and some of the fancy tigers, which they bred a little bit and then they just kind of petered out. which is kind of heartbreaking, but that's what it is. Isabel Chase, is that how you pronounce that last name? Not sure. I feel like I should say it fancier with the way it's spelled out there. Any tricks to get rid of ostracods in shrimp aquariums? My biggest thing is I would not even worry about them because they're actually really good cleaner crew as far as filtering out your water. And they do help with the quality of your aquarium. Now they may look like they'll eat some of the shrimp's foods, but you know, Sharon's caring. And if you really wanted to get rid of them, you can maybe trap them with some food. Water changes can often get rid of them, and or a filter would filter them out. But then at the same time, you run risk with your shrimp getting into the filter too. And then same thing with like just throwing an inler or something in there to eat them is potential, but at the same time, that fish probably harass your shrimp too. So personally, I don't ever mess with the ostracods in my shrimp tanks because they will find their population limit and then they'll chill out and be pretty balanced and won't even be a problem. Bob S says, how big a tank can you safely make with double strength window glass? I have no clue, Bob. That's more of a king of DIY question. He's into building tanks. I still would like to learn how to properly build a tank. I don't know, double strength window glass? What does that even mean? Like, how thick is that? Jupiter 1, how do you turn that into an aquarium question? I could imagine neither of them would benefit the aquarium industry. But yeah, definitely not her. Chase your picture. See, I feel like I gave it that little, I fancified that a little bit, saying that one. Would you quarantine all fish from outdoor ponds when bringing them inside? Honestly, probably not. I don't really feel like I need to. Water scorpions, that's what Pilot Aquatics says. Is that what those things are? I have to look those up. And as far as and the big reason why I say this too is because, like, I know what's going on out there. Like, these fish have good immunities. And what tends to happen with fish that get run through the stores and wholesale and stuff like that is their immunities just get so beat up. That's where their problems come. And then that's when they have issues with, like, illnesses, infections, and whatnot, because their immunities can't fight whatever off. And so these fish that I'm breeding out here, they have great immunities. And if there was anything wrong with them, I should be able to see it, would be able to see it before bringing them in. And then that would be like, oh, okay, I need to quarantine them. But since I don't see anything like that, I haven't had to worry about it. Then, like most of the fish I get in quarantine anyways, I never have to mess with. But also, that's where I'm getting them, because they have good immunities. So I guess that's the difference between buying from like box stores and wholesales. Like when you're actually buying from breeders and people in clubs and stuff like that, you get good quality, good immunities, which makes a huge difference for your success on how well they're gonna do it for you. Huge, huge difference. All right, I am at the bottom of the chat, so if you got a question, that's where I'm at. We got 10 minutes left. And like I said, I'm pretty hungry, so I may dip out if there is no more questions. So we did go longer, and I was kind of playing because Once again, I'm pretty hungry right now. You know when a man's hungry, it usually means it. So I guess not. You guys got 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, no questions there. Dean tells me to have a good weekend. I appreciate that, Dean. Hope you guys all have a good weekend as well. And once again, till next time, peace. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Da 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 da.